ABC News.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Roof Rescue. A 23-year-old Utah State University student has died from her injuries after a head-on crash along Valley View Highway SR 30. Emily Ann Fisher was on her way home for the weekend when the crash happened this past Friday afternoon. Concerned about snowy conditions in Sardine Canyon at the time, Fisher, who is from Grantsville, had decided to take a longer way home. Utah Highway Patrol Sergeant Brian Peterson said the crash happened about 2 p.m. near milepost 101 in Petersboro. According to investigators, Fisher was driving a silver Ford Fiesta westbound when she lost control of the vehicle and slid into eastbound traffic. A white GMC was not able to avoid the Ford due to slushy roads and hit the car head-on. Fisher was trapped in her car and had to be extricated by emergency responders. She was transported by ambulance to Logan Regional Hospital with critical injuries, but later died from her injuries. The driver of the GMC was transported with non-life-threatening injuries. Two other passengers who were inside the GMC were not hurt. According to her obituary, Fisher was set to graduate this spring from USU with a Bachelor of Science degree in business management. Fisher recently served a mission in Milan, Italy for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and returned to the country with friends this past summer. Her family described how she loved Hershey's chocolate bars, going on adventures, painting, and lacrosse. Funeral services will be held at the LDS Chapel View building in South Jordan. Viewings will be Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., Friday from 10 a.m. to 11:30 p.m., followed by the funeral service at 12 noon. KBNU News Time is 4:07. KBNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy, hazy, low around 5 below. Partly cloudy in the morning, then clearing on Thursday. Hazy conditions, mid-20s for the high. And then mostly cloudy, still hazy Friday, around 30. Much warmer today than it's been since the weekend. 14 has been our high. It is 12 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by the Duct Hunter. They remind you, change the furnace filter every 3 months. Your furnace will run more efficiently. To clean your ducts, give the Duct Hunter a call, 435-770-4813.
This is David from Roof Rescue. A roof is not something most people think about until they notice a leak on the ceiling. This time of year, fluctuation in temperatures, along with rain, snow, and ice, can do a number on your roof. If you notice these leaks, they won't go away on their own and are oftentimes a sign that the roof has reached the beginning of the end of its life. Call Roof Rescue for a free analysis, diagnosis, and estimate. Let's fix those leaks and keep you dry this winter. Call 435-999-4268 or visit roofrescueusa.com. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KBNU News Time is 4:08. Utah Congressman Blake Moore held a radio town hall Tuesday afternoon during KBNU's For the People program. With Republicans in the majority in the House, things have stepped up even more for the 1st District representative, who was recently appointed to the powerful House Ways and Means Committee.
Ways and Means Committee has the most jurisdiction in Congress with the most amount of legislation that will go through it. That's sort of a gauge for the level of influence that the committee has. And the topics, though, that it covers are so incredibly important. Every single poll that we do with constituents is, what are some of the things that you're most concerned about? Inflation, economy and jobs, debt, deficit.
He said those are the things that are big concerns on people's minds. Moore said there has only been one other member of Congress from Utah on this committee, and he said it's pretty neat to be the first Republican member on the committee. Moore said he loved hearing Utah Governor Cox oftentimes say that Utah needs to go through a manufacturing renaissance, and he feels it has an important national security component.
We did an actual bill that's TTM Technologies. I'll call it out specifically. It's in Logan.
Sure.
That it encourages, gives the tax incentive to make sure that we pull a lot of that printed circuit board manufacturing back in the U.S. And then once we develop that core, make sure that it's more so for national security and not allowing for Chinese manufacturing of these very critical components that could be tampered with espionage and things like that.
Moore said once you have that core, you can build out the commercial applications of it, and that's ultimately beneficial to the private sector as well. And a man from Saratoga Springs allegedly participated in a long-running scheme to defraud an organic produce distributor out of $5.8 million. 55-year-old Kevin Horton was arraigned in federal court on a grand jury indictment on Tuesday. He was charged with 7 counts of mail fraud and pleaded not guilty, according to a press release from the U.S. Department of Justice. Horton sent fake invoices on behalf of a shell company to defraud the organic produce distributor. The indictment and other court documents reportedly stated that Horton schemed with 56-year-old California resident Tony Rawlings to manage information systems director at Melissa's World Variety Produce to defraud Melissa's out of its money through the approval of payment of invoices for fictitious services. KBNU News Time is 4:11. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
The Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs, recognizing first responders and other deserving individuals in our community. Friday mornings at 8:30 on News Talk KVNU.
I'm Larry Gelwitz, the getaway guru with Morris Columbus Travel and Apple Vacations, with double discounts on your air and hotel packages to the sunny beaches of Hawaii and Mexico, to Europe and the Caribbean, and you save like never before. And for the best travel deals on the planet, give us a call at Morris Columbus Travel.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
If you're near retirement or thinking about retiring, you probably have questions. How do you make your savings last? How much should you take out and when? You're ready for retirement, but are your finances? Your Edward Jones financial advisor can help you build a strategy to help your finances keep up with your long-term needs. You've done what it takes to get there. Now it's time to make the most of retirement. Call one of the 7 Edward Jones branch locations in Cache Valley or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have 2 guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Wednesday. Oh, I can't believe I'm about to say this. Wednesday, February 1st. Where did January go?
And we're in the double digits today. How about that?
Tropical out there.
14 has been our high.
That's right. I like either freezing cold or warm enough to melt everything. This in between stuff. I've got some gutters that I did my best to get the snow off of them so they would melt as fast as possible. But as cold as it's been, it's still just, they're just full of ice hanging over the edges a little bit. And it was warm enough today just to make them all drip. So I'm going to be headed home to some icy walks and decks and things like that. So looking forward to that. But yeah, we finally got a little bit of a break from these highs of 1 and 2 and -1.
It actually warmed up last night. As I was
went on.
leaving the station, it was like 1, close to 2 degrees. So I think it got kind of cloudy last night initially, so that kept the temperatures from plummeting like they had the previous nights.
Yeah, that's a big question. Inversion setting in throughout Utah, Salt Lake Valley. I know today their air quality is not great. I haven't seen the official air quality report from the Bear River Health Department today, but looking at the haze around the mountains and that weird feeling you get if you've been outside for some time in your nose. Mine is sneezing. I sneeze and sneeze and sneeze when the air quality is bad. But it is. It's fair to say we're sitting in inversion territory, so expect the air quality to continue to get worse over the next few days.
And it is bad right now. We're in the orange quality of PM 2.5, which is
better than red,
but not as good as yellow or green.
Yeah. What that means is if you are a person, if you're in a sensitive category, meaning you've got issues in which you need to take special care for your lungs and breathing in general, if you've got asthma even, this is honestly weather to stay out of for the time being. So
now get this, Weber and Box Elder County are in the green. Now how do they get off the hook?
They just lucky. We do have a storm coming though, right? Might maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but
blow some of this
we're going to
out.
have to wait till Sunday. And at this point, it doesn't look like a major storm.
Maybe not enough to do it. So
yeah, we'll see. Hopefully.
Yeah, just one thing after another. Not complaining though. It is beautiful out there, and like Bill said, double digits, at least something, right?
On the positive side, yeah.
Yeah, this is trying to find the silver lining. All right. Cache County Executive David Zook will be joining us later on in the show. We also have a lot of action on Capitol Hill today. They started the day with commemoration and some recognition of leaders of the several tribes. There are 8 different tribal nations represented here in Utah in various communities throughout the state. And they got a bit of a spotlight on Capitol Hill today. We'll talk about what that's tied to and what they had to say in the daily media briefings as far as what's coming on these rumored tax cuts. That's all coming up later on in the show. We'll get things started here today, though, with your headlines and smooth jazz. This is, well, it's not good news. It's interesting news. We'll put it that way. But this... So the Great Salt Lake, even though the rest of us haven't really experienced it, the Great Salt Lake has been under what is all said and done about a 22-year drought, meaning water levels have been increasingly decreasing at a faster rate every 5 years over the last 22. And much of that can be attributed to the recent drought, of course, but a majority of it can be contributed to our own water usage. While the lake is experiencing this drought, there's an interesting thing developing, and also has been seen with Lake Powell threatened as well. You know that in the news. Farmers' fields running fallow because reservoirs are actually dry. There is nothing good about a drought, but a 3-year study that was ongoing, unrelated to the drought, via the Nature Conservancy's Shorelands Preserve, they've been tracking a certain type of bird, the northern harrier, the bird is called. And what they found is that as the drought has worsened for the lake, as water levels have worsened for the lake, and as the drought really set in the last 2 years, and as lawmakers are looking at ways to open up the state's wallet to spend what right now, I did some math, about $500 million is what they're talking about so far on water conservation strategies. And that includes that was spent last year. But a 3-year study that's been going on birds, wildlands, and migratory patterns They have taken a look, and each year from April to June, they saw a 25% increase in the number of birds using an area around the Great Salt Lake as local habitat, not the traditional birds. The count did include what they call flyovers. These are birds that are just migratory headed, stops along the Pacific Flyway, they call it. And the Great Salt Lake and the wetlands north of there and surrounding are stops for these birds. They'll sometimes hang out for a couple of days, eat up, rest up, and then head on their way. But what they found is that as habitat has shrunk and as the area for birds to actually hang out for long periods of time has shrunk with the drought, that's concerning. It could permanently, if continued for too long, disrupt migratory patterns. But the Conservancy has found that at least one bird is thriving. Again, not good news, but interesting news. But they found that the development and drought have displaced so many other migratory birds and wetlands in Utah that this harrier is actually finding its niche in Utah. Normally not a huge population here, but the population has been growing and growing and growing and has been especially noticeable over the last 5 or so years. So one species of birds, at least benefiting from the drought and displacement of migratory birds. Again, not good news. This threatens to upend our ecology here in the state and could change agriculture forever. But they have found that the northern harrier seems to be enjoying Utah's drought and making Utah home more and more often. So, yet another wrong-way crash on I-15, leaving one driver dead, and again igniting a debate over what is going on in this state. UDOT taking increasing heat for this, although, what do you want them to do is the question that always goes through my head. Obviously, we've got an issue. Now, every state deals with the occasional wrong-way driver. And oftentimes, these are impaired drivers in which, additional signage and public education campaigns aren't going to help. If someone's drunk and can't effectively operate a vehicle because of their impairment, mistakes are going to happen. So the question is, does Utah have a higher number of drunk drivers? Well, the data would suggest no. Does Utah have a higher number of older drivers that maybe shouldn't be on the road? The data does not suggest that. And UDOT trying to answer some of these questions today after yet another wrong-way driver incident that ended in a fatality for the vehicle struck, not the wrong-way driver themselves. The answers are kind of, no one has any. But Utah is seeing this happen at 3 times the rate. Now, it's not frequent. This isn't every weekend. But 3 times the rate of every other Western state in 2022. We had 3 times as many wrong-way drivers that ended up in crashes, many of them fatalities. So, in this case specifically, the most recent, alcohol is being investigated as a contributing factor, but the belief is the driver was not legally impaired at the time of the accident. So, again, questions raising about how our freeways are designed, the entrances and exits. Is there something going on that's leading to Utah having a much higher rate, 3 times our neighboring states, of wrong-way drivers cruising down the freeway? I'll tell you one thing I know Utah is definitely experiencing other states aren't, and that is whatever UDOT... whatever they're painting the roads with here in Utah, it ain't cutting it. If you go to other states, when it rains, you can still see the striping, the lane and the dashes. A lot of other states even use a lot more reflectors, either reflective paint or actual reflectors in the roadway. On I-15 in Utah, though, this is a common complaint that the governor's office said they field literally hundreds of calls about every single month throughout 2022. The inability to see lane markers, stripes, and more on Utah's roadways. So UDOT just really kind of getting slapped around over all of this. We'll see what happens. One Utah lawmaker saying after the report of a yet another wrong-way crash on the freeway leaving one person dead, UDOT, or one lawmaker saying this may be something, this may be worth a task force. They may look into legislation this session to put some money aside for UDOT to actually look into this and see if there's something going on. Maybe it's just, as the lawmaker said, a handful of exits. Because these all do seem to be happening along the I-15 corridor of the Wasatch Front and in Salt Lake County. That's where most of them are happening. So maybe there's something going on there with an exit here or there that's just the cause of each and every one of these. Worth exploring. Dog owners. Sad anytime the family pet comes down with cancer diagnosis, because cancer treatment in dogs is not very advanced and not very effective. But there are some improvements happening. A study of more than 3,000 dogs found that larger breeds, unneutered males, and purebred animals tend to be diagnosed with cancer more often and at a much younger age. Cancer is common in dogs just like it is in humans. About 1 in 4 will develop cancer at some point in their life, and researchers believe everything from air pollution to poor quality of certain cheaper foods could be a contributing factor to this. We just don't know enough, but it is increasing. And new analysis, again, of thousands of dogs finds that a dog's size, breed, of course, and whether the animal has been neutered or not, very much associated with prevalency of cancer in our furry friends. Researchers examines the age of cancer diagnosis in dogs as well in the past, but the studies have always looked at specific breeds and specific types of cancer. This is the first ever broad study done on just dogs in general and cancers in general. And they found that the median age for a cancer diagnosis, most often meaning that life is going to be very much limited time-wise for the animal, about 8.8 years is the median average. And again, if your dog is male, a large dog, and unneutered, the odds of cancer by the age of 7 are nearly quadrupled. So, interesting stuff. As you want to see the full study, which did reveal some other things that may lead to better treatment for dogs. Dogs don't respond well to traditional human-used treatments for cancer, but they believe that they are making some headway when it comes to certain dietary changes to prevent cancer in the first place, something we already know about humans. The better your diet, the less likely you are to develop anomalies in cells that can turn into cancer. They believe the same is true with dogs, and so understanding dogs' diets may be key. So the better you feed your dog, and the more exercise your dog gets, similar with humans, and also if you have a male dog, have them neutered. Greatly reduces their odds of cancer. Scientific American article linked on our Facebook page. Those are your headlines with smooth jazz, and we'll be back with a look at what happened on Capitol Hill today, right after this.
Attention all bargain hunters. Are you in the market for a new appliance but don't want to break the bank? This is Jay with Daryl's Appliance. We just received 2 huge truckloads of scratch and dent appliances that are as good as new, but with a few cosmetic imperfections. You'll get Daryl's exclusive 2-year extended warranty and the famous Daryl's difference on service and warranty. You don't have to sacrifice quality for a great deal. Why pay full price when you can get a dentalicious deal at Daryl's Appliance, west on Airport Road?
We start each new year filled with hope and prosperity for things to come. At Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology, it's no different. Dr. Danes is so grateful to get to call Cache Valley home and continue to offer his services to the wonderful people that live in our beautiful valley. He wants to help you start your new year off right by improving your hearing, which over the course of time will help improve your quality of life. Give them a call at 435-753-4327 or 753-HERE to schedule an appointment, or you can visit them online at CacheValleyHearing.com.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I'm going to throw this out to listeners. I just got an email, or just saw, rather. He sent it about an hour ago, an email from Logan City School District Superintendent Frank Schofield. He'll be with us tomorrow for our monthly check-in with the Logan City School District. We do this first Thursday of each month, and it's proven to be really fun. Last month, we kind of put serious stuff aside and talked to a bunch of students who are coming up, this weekend, actually. Mount Logan Middle School students have put together 4 different shows, I think, of Oklahoma, which I believe starts Friday.
Yes, Friday, Saturday, and then several days the following week.
Very
See
cool.
if I can find it. Yeah, they're right at the top.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. Tickets it's cheap, $3 for middle school students, $5 for everyone else. And this is 7 p.m., as Bill said, the kicking off this Friday and then Saturday, 3rd and 4th, and then again next week, the 6th, 7th, and 11th at 7 p.m. at the Mount Logan Middle School Auditorium. We had a chance to talk with 2 of the leads from the production last month, but it is a new month, and again, the first Thursday of each month, we check in with Logan City School District, and Superintendent Frank Schofield just shot me this email, and I want listeners to help me decide because I don't know. So we have 2 potential topics for tomorrow. We could talk with Frank himself, superintendent, about the legislative session. There are a lot of education bills. Of course, as we've mentioned several times here on the show, lawmakers taking a cynical opportunity to ram through a voucher program, never popular in rural areas of the state, but a pet political issue of Utah County lawmakers. And they literally, within just a couple of days of debate, they're defending themselves now to critics, saying we had a public hearing, there was a committee meeting, the public could come. Yeah, that's not the same, and they knew that. So they rushed this voucher program through. The only thing I can say that's good about it is it's small. $42 million is a lot of money, but it's not the make or break dollar amount for public education funding. But just a distasteful process around this whole thing. And I'm still very disappointed with all Cache Valley lawmakers that no one spoke up to critique the process. Whether or not you support vouchers or whether you're against vouchers aside, this process was hinky, and not a peep from our own lawmakers on that. Nothing defensible about such a rush process, and an obviously political process. So there's that, but there are also many other education bills that have the eyeballs of not just teachers, but superintendents, staff, education advocates, education critics, public education critics from the charter and homeschool community. So everyone is watching, these various bills. So we can talk about that with Frank, get the perspective of someone in public education, what they're paying attention to, what is important to the Logan City School District as far as even funding requests might go. And there was a debate today, by the way, we'll get to this later in the show, on capital projects, buildings being kind of folded in with education funding growth and whether or not that's a smart way to do it. But we could talk about that. Or, Frank says, we can talk about some of the programs Logan City has for helping homeless students and families. This is a actual problem here in Cache Valley that many of us are conveniently blind to, but there are actually in Cache and Logan school districts many families, many students who are, whether it be for a weekend or a few weeks or a few months because of loss of a job by one of the parents, some other situation. I actually give you an example. I know a family currently homeless, staying at a temporary, basically rental situation at a long-term hotel, and this all has to do with flooding that occurred at their home that they were renting. They were renting a house. Flooding occurred. They can't stay there. And of course, who has a slush fund of I'll just get a second one really quick, waiting. And also, good luck. It's pretty tight out there as far as rental and purchasing home options. So this person is basically homeless. The family is basically homeless for a couple of weeks until they get things cleaned up at the home they were renting. So it can happen to anyone, and it's a disruption for, obviously, if you have a student in middle school or high school, this is going to be a big disruption. Even just everyone getting a shower once a day can be, extremely difficult when even if it's just a few days of being displaced. So Logan City School District has some programs in place to help families in these situations. But unfortunately, of course, this requires the family to come to them oftentimes, or for news of the family's experience to get to them. So raising some awareness of that. I'd like to hear from our listeners. Which would you like to hear about tomorrow? Frank, and maybe Frank and guest, depending on which topic we choose, will be with us tomorrow at 5 o'clock one way or another. So, again, we can talk to Frank about the legislative session, bills they're keeping a close eye on there at Logan City School District. Or we can talk about, we'll be talking about both, but the decision is which one we do first. Or we can talk about the support programs the district has for homeless students and families. Let me know which one you'd care for most. 753-5868. You can also message us via Google Chat using KVNU FTP as the user ID. And we'll just do a quick little vote here. On the other side, speaking of the legislative session, a lot happened today. Some more hints, kind of, about these promised, rumored maybe, tax cuts. They've made such a big deal out of this, including the Senate president saying, again, third year in a row, he needs a new slogan, that this was the, quote, year of tax cuts. In the past couple of years, these have been significant tax cuts, but they've been very targeted, which isn't a critique. I'm just trying to keep everyone's expectations low. Targeted meaning they were for specific groups of people. For example, one tax cut was a tax cut for veterans. Another was a tax cut for those on Social Security. So I'm expecting the same. This isn't going to be a big, broad income tax cut or any other, everyone in Utah benefits from it tax cut. This will be a targeted tax cut. But they've made such a big deal out of it that everyone, nearing the halfway point of the session next week is saying, what gives? Have y'all changed your minds? Well, we got a little bit of a hint today, a slip up even, from the Speaker of the House. We'll talk about it after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:37, and the news is brought to you by U&I Furniture. California has released a plan outlining how it thinks states should reduce their reliance on the Colorado River. The state's plan, released Tuesday, comes a day after the other 6 states that tap the river released their own proposal. The U.S. Bureau of Reclamation has said the states must dramatically lower their use of the critical river as key reservoirs drop to historically low levels. California's plan calls for new water cuts based on the elevation of Lake Mead. It does not want to base cuts on how much water is lost to evaporation and transportation, a move the other states propose. A woman died and a man was badly burned in a camp trailer fire near I-80 in rural northeastern Nevada. The man was being treated in a burn unit at a Utah hospital today. The Elko Daily Free Press reports he told sheriff's deputies the woman was trapped inside the camper when they arrived at the scene in Elbers, Nevada, at about 9 p.m. last evening. It's about 20 miles northeast of Wells. Firefighters were able to extinguish the flames, but the woman did not survive. No names have been released. The Nevada State Police Fire Marshal's unit is investigating the cause of the fire. Utah State Aggie men's basketball team is back at home in the D. Glenn Smith Spectrum tonight for an 8:30 tip against the New Mexico Lobos. Al Lewis and former Aggie great Jalen Moore will be talking about the game from 7:30 to 8:30, and then they will be back and joined by John Russell after the game's conclusion tonight on KBNU. News time is 4:39.
Lots of closeouts and store-wide specials as you and I gets ready for new arrivals coming from the furniture market. Dining room sets, sectional sofa and loves, and chairs. If you're not happy with the chair you're watching TV in, come pick out a recliner for you and I's big selection. And if you need a new bed, their favorite new mattress is a therapeutic with copper-infused memory foam. You can tell by just placing your head on that bed how comfortable and cool it is to sleep on. Shop you and I's sale now. Get the low sale price and lay it away until your tax refund shows up. Always a better buy. You and I Furniture, downtown Logan.
KBNU weather for tonight. For once, we do not have a wind chill warning in effect, but it is going to be plenty cold, around 5 below tonight for the overnight low. Partly cloudy, hazy conditions. Partly cloudy in the morning, then clearing, but haze through the day on Thursday. High temperature in the mid-20s. Hazy on Friday, but around 30 for the high. It's been to 14. It's 14 degrees right now at KBNU. Adams Wealth Advisors put clients first under any circumstance. You'll receive peace of mind with Adams Wealth Advisors. Schedule a time with an advisor. Give them a call at 435-752-1702 or visit adamswealthadvisors.com. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Cheryl bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Jeff Olson and Edward Jones. Markets finished strong. Stocks turned around early losses to finish the day higher after the Fed released their 25 basis points, 0.25% rate hike decision. Value-styled stocks outperformed growth as yields fell. Fixed income investors took the Fed commentary in a positive light, with the 10-year Treasury yield falling to trade around 3.4%, along with a fall in the Japanese and UK benchmark 10-year yields. In the energy markets, U.S. natural gas has fallen significantly from its high of over $10 last year, now trading around $2.6. Oil prices sank more than 2% after OPEC stuck to their current oil output levels, and after reports showed U.S. crude oil inventories have risen sharply. Today, U.S. equities closed higher. The Dow closed up 8 points at 34,094. The NASDAQ closed up 232 points at 11,816. The S&P 500 closed up 43 points at 4,119. In stocks of local interest, Nucor was up 5.96 to 174.98. Thermo Fisher was up 17.03 to 587.36. Wells Fargo was up 0.46 to 47.43. Walmart was up 0.80 to 144.67. Northrop Grumman was down 5.45 to 442.59. Zions was up 0.23 to 53.39. Amazon was up 2.02 to 105.15. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Jeff Olson, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 580 North Main in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-787-8170. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
Hi, this is Erica Hansen, owner of the Red Fox located on historic Center Street. Meet us in downtown Logan and we'll help you plan your favorite Valentine's Day celebration with those you love. In downtown Logan, you'll find great promotions on all the best Valentine's gifts, special dining experiences, and romantic getaways. From all of us in downtown Logan, we wish you all the best this Valentine's Day.
Meet me in downtown Logan.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. We've talked about this a lot, a brief little interlude. I'm going to complain about this. But Mayor Daines was here, Northland Mayor Lindsay Peterson. We've talked a lot about the work that road crews put in to keep things clean and keep the snow off the roads as much as possible. And that's, commendable because their hours are horrible. And they a lot of times have to work when the rest of us are off, holidays and things like that. All that said, they're not perfect, and sometimes a bit of common sense goes a long way. So a certain road that hadn't been yet plowed very well, at least in Hiram, was plowed today. And I noticed this myself, and some nearby homes' driveways as well, with 1.5, 2 foot chunks of ice off the road that had been spun into the driveway by the plow driver. Come on, folks. You're going to put someone's tire out, go through an oil pan. Little lady up the street is not going to be able to make it over these with her car. So neighborhood coordinating now to clean this mess up. But whoever was in that plow, come on. Let's think some of this stuff through before we do it, all right? Those are driveways, and those are icebergs, chunks of ice.
Yeah.
So
cars can't navigate those very nicely.
Yeah. And I get it. When there's this much snow, there's not a lot the plow drivers can do. They have to plow the roads. But this was a situation where the road had been left to melt and pack for a few days before even being plowed, and then come and plow when it's all solid bricks of ice. Really? Not so smart. There was another incident that this reminded me of that was sent in by a listener last week, which again was a situation where you kind of want to say to the plow driver that maybe you didn't see what you did, but you probably did, and probably could have been avoided somehow. But a photo of a woman who actually had to call into work. Now, this was in Wellsville, but she had to call into, and I'm not sure who does the plowing there. I think that might be the county. I'm not sure. But she had to call into work because, so a neighbor, and I believe this is illegal. I'm not certain. I think it is. But a neighbor someone had come and plowed the neighbor's road or driveway with a truck and a plow, and they'd left a gigantic berm of snow in the road. They'd just taken a swipe down the driveway and drove off, is what she described to me. And she had pictures of that. It was a pretty big, something that would take out a headlight that tall in snow that had been pushed into the road. And then whoever plowed that just drove off. Well, then the plows came by to plow the road and pushed all that snow into the first 2 feet of her driveway. And she said she couldn't get out. She had to call. She took the day off work. And her snowblower wasn't working, and so she was waiting for family members to come and help her snowblow her own driveway. But she was going to head out to work, and then she said, in between going out to check to see if I could get out of my driveway in my passenger car, and deciding yes I could, going back in, getting ready for work, and then coming back out, the snow plows had come by, and this 3 foot mountain of snow. She said I knew there was no way I was getting through that. So she had to call in, and she said that what irritated her about this is on the other side of the road there are no houses, so the snow could have been piled there. So yeah, there is always room for improvement, and no one's perfect. Hats off to the road crews and the plow drivers, but I've seen a few things just the last week or two, including this one from just today in my own neighborhood. If you're behind the wheel of those plows, think about what it is you're doing to the driveways and the homeowners there, because this situation, both of these situations, for an elderly person, with limited mobility, they're trapped at that point until someone comes and helps them. But speaking of things that kind of irritate me, Tom Brady, man.
This time, I mean it.
I have no patience for this guy anymore. I was the biggest Tom Brady fan in the earliest years of his career, and just watching, a couple of those Super Bowls, just an amazing athlete. And then he kind of became, as all amazing athletes eventually do, became a bit of a celebrity. in addition to being a good athlete. He was a celebrity. And some handle that well and some don't. You know, Dennis Rodman, I think, is a great example of an athlete that became a celebrity and didn't handle it well. Karl Malone, on the other hand, although I think the guy's kind of a jerk as a person, he has handled celebrity very well. Michael Jordan, I think, stands out as not only an athlete that became a celebrity, but probably the athlete celebrity, wouldn't you say? I mean, is there anybody better known than Michael Jordan, even for people who aren't fans?
Joe Namath, but
okay.
I'm
that's
dating
true.
myself there.
But he handled celebrity very well for the most part. So some do, some don't. It's bound to happen. I don't blame Tom Brady for him becoming a celebrity. Again, I think it's a natural progression in a career for a very talented athlete. But man, Brady just did not handle it well. He was. There was a certain point when I decided that this guy wants attention so much he was orchestrating these meltdowns or these circuses that would play out around his life at various times. That it almost looked staged. It was so on the regular. But so I kind of my irritation with the guy grew to insurmountable volume a couple of years ago. When he first retired, I thought, maybe you'll rescue your reputation doing so. And then he changed his mind, and then it just hasn't gone well for him since then. It's gone great for him on the field. Again, he's a very talented athlete. Well, I mean, it hasn't gone as well as it did in the past for him on the field.
Yeah.
But still, he's very talented and deserves all the credit he gets as an athlete. But it appears not retiring and then changing his mind appears to have had some great personal costs for him. He's now going out on a bit of a sullied, tarnished reputation. Just a bad decision all around. If he'd retired when he said it the first time, he'd be remembered only as a Hall of Famer. Now he's going to be remembered for the last little bit of his career, which has been a circus. And I saw the announcement today, and all I could do was just eye roll. Part of me wants to see him change his mind again, just to see if the next 2 years are worse for him and his reputation. But Tom
this
Brady.
Is my yearly and
that's right.
annual retirement announcement.
I'm going to retire. I changed my mind. Wait and see what happens next. It would be fun if nothing else. But no, I think he means it this time. Also, you only get... He said this in his announcement video as well, but I'm going to repeat it here because he kind of said it and then ignored it himself. But you only get one emotional retirement video a career, and you burned yours, Tom. He said that in the video today himself. He said, you only get one emotional retirement video a year. I'm not going to waste everyone's time. And then he proceeded... to do exactly that.
To waste everybody's
with
time.
A lengthy emotional retirement video. And the public reaction to this seems to be one gigantic meh, which, I'm sorry, Tom, I think you earned that meh. Talented athlete, but a lot of other things, too. We'll be back with more right after this.
Now that the holidays are over, are you feeling the need to declutter and get that stale, closed-up smell out of your home? You should have your air ducts cleaned by the Duct Hunter. The dust that accumulates over time can appear as surface dust and can cause your home to smell musty and dusty. Call the Duct Hunter at 770-4813.
We are the Duct Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
Do you know a champion in our community? Nominate them for the KVNU Above and Beyond Salute. Every Friday morning at 8:30, we'll spotlight a firefighter, law enforcement officer, healthcare worker, or other deserving individual and give them a $40 gift card to Firehouse Subs. Submit your nominations for the Above and Beyond Salute by visiting kvnutalk.com. Help us recognize the champions in our communities. The Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs on News Talk KVNU, the voice of Northern Utah.
I've been driving trucks for a long time, and safety is my #1 priority. I know that my truck has huge blind spots. That's why I remember to check my mirrors often for smaller vehicles. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're behind the wheel, try to avoid lingering in those blind spots. It can be dangerous. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. A reminder, our county hour with Cache County Executive David Zook coming up at 5 o'clock. If you have a question or a comment, join us at 5-753-5868. Just to give everyone a report here, after the news, or before the news, I threw this out to a vote for our listeners. Logan City School District Superintendent Frank Schofield coming in tomorrow for our monthly check-in with the Logan District. And he, first Thursday of each month, and he sent me a choice of topics, and I threw it out to listeners for your preference, and we got about 33 votes. I'm missing a few here, I know, but it's very clear the majority, and I get this, it's going on right now, but the majority wants to hear from Frank on the legislative session. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow, unless Frank decides he'd prefer the other topic himself. And we will be getting to, next month, we'll get to some of these support services. The other option Frank gave us as a topic for tomorrow, the support services Logan City School District provides to homeless students and families, which is a larger problem here in Cache Valley than most people realize. So we'll do that on a future show. So tomorrow, Frank Schofield himself, and we'll be talking about the legislative session. Speaking of that, we'll have some highlights tomorrow. I'm going to go through all of the media events and availabilities and that for the week and bring you a full recap tomorrow. But it's just been an odd week. For some context on this, lawmakers are trying to change the narrative after the first 2 weeks, which were, pretty ugly, to be honest with you. And they're catching a bit more heat for their antics than I think they expected. And what that's led to is kind of a stalling out. BYU professor Adam Brown actually had some data on this. He tracks the legislative session numerically each year. If you don't follow him or read his blog, you should. It's a fascinating way to understand lawmaking in Utah from a data perspective. And he pointed out that as of yesterday, at the 1/3 point of the Utah legislative annual session, the 45-day session, which the 1/3 point is actually tomorrow, technically. But so roughly at the 1/3 point, fewer bills have been discussed and passed than the average. The average is about 26 bills by this time in the legislative session have been discussed and passed. And right now we're sitting at 15. Brown says, fewer bills, of course, doesn't mean less impact or controversy. These bills might have been, maybe the bills were just larger, more broad bill packages that took up more time and more debate and more time in committee hearings. Or maybe something else is going on. So he looked into it and, no, the bills that have been passed outside of that sneaky school voucher bill and the bills, banning gender affirming care for transgender minors and the controversial stuff that they're catching heat for now. I think the plan was they're going to pack these into the first 2 weeks and then shift to water, and everybody would go along with them, and that's not happening. So what's happened instead is the legislative session has kind of crawled to a crawl, and the reason for that, Brown speculates, I would agree with this. No, every lawmaker who has a slew of bills, 4 or 5 bills each that they really want to get a fair hearing, none of them want to bring them up now. They're all begging leadership to strip them from the calendars for this week until the anger from the public settles over school vouchers and some of these other controversial bills. So no one wants their bills to be heard this week because everyone's angry and cantankerous and getting yelled at by their constituents. It's their own fault. I don't feel bad for them. But it's leading to everyone wanting to pull their bills and wait until next week. So as of Wednesday, not a lot getting done on Capitol Hill, which, I mean, maybe big picture, that's a really good thing. No damage done as well, right? All right, hour 2 of today's show with Cache County Executive David Zook here in the studio right after this on KVNU Logan.